the Vice-Chancellor of University of Abuja.
Professor Uniabuja,
on behalf of the Governing Council, Senate, and Management Team of the University of Abuja,
welcomes you to 23rd Convocation Ceremony for the award of first degrees, postgraduate diplomas and conferment of higher degrees and honorary doctorate degrees to
Architect Amici Chiedu Andile, Chief Executive Officer Lionstone Group, Doctor of Business Administration,
and Barrister Mrs. Salamatu Hussaini Sulaiman, former Honorable Minister, CEO Alkali Foundation, Doctor of Letters. Date: Friday, June 14, 2019. Pre-Convocation Lecture. Dealing with Terra Non Firma, Thoughts and Requisite Actions on Earth Tremors in Abuja FCT and Nigeria in General.
Guest Lecturer, Professor Kalumisto Onyoha, Emeritus Professor of Geology,
under the chairmanship of Architect Sunday Ekono, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education.
Time: 2 p.m. prompt. Venue: Faculty of Management Science Lecture Theatre, Main Campus, Airport Road, FCT.
Day 2.
Date: Saturday, June 15th, 2019.
Venue: Convocation Ground, Main Campus, Airport Road, Uniabuja. Time: 10 a.m.
I'd like to appreciate most sincerely the Governing Council, Management, Senate, and students of the University of Abuja for
Professor Uniabuja, Vice-Chancellor.
Presented by Media and Publicity Convocation Committee.
Stream and video production powered by WET-T Network Connection 0805-210-9617 or 0703-930-9946.
We'll start in a minute when we've done all the needfuls. I crave your indulgence to please kindly rise so that we take the national anthem. This will be supplied by the university choir. Thank you, the University Choir. Please, can you go on with the University of Abuja anthem? I crave your indulgence to remain standing, please.
University Choir. At this time, we'll invite Hajia Safia to give us the opening prayer in the Islamic prayer at this time.
صلوا على نبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. Oh Allah, we thank you for bringing us here safely, and we hope that whatever we are here to listen to, we will find it useful, and we pray that we all go back to our various destinations. Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Thank you, Safia. Thank you for that prayer. We are going to introduce our guests now. Of course, we realize that the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, is the chairman of this occasion, Architect Sunday Echonu. You're welcome, sir. We are happy you are here. That tells us that our prospects will improve in near future. Yes. But he's not alone. He has come with a galaxy of directors and deputy directors from the Federal Ministry of Education, and they are all seated here. I have some names, and as more arrive, we shall recognize them. There is Ozo Edi Nwokoye, Director, Finance and Accounts. Wonderful. That's the financial powerhouse of the ministry. Sam Anako, Director, Reform Coordination, Federal Ministry of Education. Iguara Vincent Obi, Director, General Services, Federal Ministry of Education. Aisha Matwaki, forgive me if I don't pronounce these names well at times, is the way they are written. Fine, beautiful writings, so at times I may be led astray. Almana Women Association, all the way from Kaduna. Thank you for coming. We have the FRC rep, Assistant Corps Marshal Angus O. Ibezim. Yes. He's representing the Corps Marshal Dr. Boboye Oyemi. You're welcome, sir. There is, I think, Commodore Angus Ibezim. Okay, that's the same. Okay, they've written your name twice. Maybe the person is afraid your boys will arrest them. You know. Father Dr. Dominic Shimawa. Father Dr. Dominic Shimawa, representing Father Professor Hyacinth Ichoku, VC Veritas University, Abuja. Okay. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. There is Professor Godwin Yina, VC Rep, BSU Makode. Where are you, sir? Stand to be recognized. You're welcome. And there is Mr. Ojo Joel, MA, who is from Abuja here. Okay, Director Tertiary Education. It wasn't indicated. Similarly, Abubakar Issa, Federal Minister of Education. You're welcome, sir. Jonathan Mbaka, Federal Minister of Education also. Okay. Director Quality Assurance. So we have everybody in the ministry here. Director ICT. Okay. So please, you know your designations. We love you, we recognize you, and we welcome you heartily and warmly. You're welcome. Mrs. Saadatu Bello Gwandu, Kebbi State, from Winnipeg Close. You're welcome, ma. You're welcome, ma. We have the Vice Chancellor of Federal University in Ndufu Alike in Ebonyi State, and he's Professor Chinedum Nwajuba. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. Okay. Now, Alex Ekweme Federal University, right? Okay, you're welcome. There's Chris Uwadoka, also from the Alex Ekweme Federal University. Okay. And he's the Director of Partnership of that university. There is Barrister Mrs. Salamatu Husseini Suleiman, immediate past commissioner at ECOWAS. Is she around? The minister for, oh, wow, that's the big fish. That's the big fish. You know, I just kept this. Who? Okay, yes, I'll do that. You're welcome, ma. Okay. Well, we did something that didn't conform with charity beginning at home. Now let me look at the high table and see my people on the high table. Of course, flanked by the Vice Chancellor is Professor C.B. Alawa, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics. Please rise for recognition. We also have Mrs. Dr. Rose Echezona, the librarian of the University of Abuja. Please stand. And the last but not the least, the man that runs affairs of this university, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Michael Omale Adiku. We have the guest lecturer here, the man for whom we have assembled here, and I assure you, you will not be disappointed when you hear the lecture. So you are welcome, sir. I think a special time will come for your special introduction. Okay. Okay. So far, this is what we have. Okay. I invite the chairman, Architect Sunday Echonu, to please kindly give us your opening remarks. Please, sir. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Education. Thank you, sir.
The representative of the chairman of the Governing Council of University of Abuja, the Vice Chancellor, and other principal officers of the university here present, the guest lecturer, Professor Emeritus Kalumostu Onuoha, our former Honorable Minister, and our D that we'll be hearing more about tomorrow. I hope to witness that. Visiting Vice Chancellors, I can see the representative of the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, directors and other senior officials of the Federal Ministry of Education here present, representatives of heads of parastatals, particularly the Federal Road Safety Corps and other parastatals of the federal government here present, other staff of the University of Abuja, special invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I take special pleasure on behalf of the Vice Chancellor and the university community to welcome you all to this convocation lecture, which is planned as part of a 23rd convocation ceremony of this university that is at the heart of our federation. I am particularly thrilled that today's lecture captures a topic that is of serious concern as well as interest for most of us, particularly those residents in the Abuja community, and more especially the scientific community. The topic, I'm told, are thoughts and requisite actions on earth tremors in Abuja environment and in Nigeria in general. Many of you who are residents of the FCT would have experienced in the last 2 years incidences that caused some form of discomfiture around our city, and we are trying to understand the phenomena. So we now have a Professor Emeritus who is a specialist in that field of geology to explain to us and to comfort us or alarm us whether we need to worry, what do we need to do, what should we expect. And hearing from such an eminent scholar, we believe we'll be halfway down the road in posing solutions to such conditions. So it is a pleasure to be here. We look forward to also a very interactive session. After his presentations, I hope the organizers will afford our distinguished audience an opportunity to also seek clarifications on the lecture. And at the end of it all, I want us to spread the message. That is why I want to especially appreciate the gentlemen of the press that are here to underline our deep appreciation for the level of courage that the education sector have enjoyed in the media, not only in the recent past, but throughout the administration. I will have the opportunity of conveying the message of the visitor tomorrow, so I will skip making any policy comments at this time. But I want to assure you that you'll be able to enjoy yourself. We have an eminent lecturer and the setting is good. So I welcome you all and I thank you very much.
Well, the chairman was making his opening remarks. The representative of the National Universities Commission secretary arrived. The DESO, that's what we call him at NUC, the Director Executive Secretary's Office. And believe it or not, I'm doing my sabbatical right under his nose. I even had to take permission from him today to come and join my people here. He's Chris Meyaki. Chris, you're welcome. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I please indulge the audience to move forward. Those of you sitting at the far back, can you relocate and move forward and sit forward. Please, those ushers, help them move closer down. Thank you very much. And that region also, kindly move down closer. Thank you. There are still vacant seats down here. Okay. At this time, we'll invite the Vice Chancellor, Professor Michael Adiku, to give the opening remark for the program. Let's clap as he comes to the podium. Thank you.
Thanks very much, the Permanent Secretary, all the dignitaries on the high table, my colleague Vice Chancellors. I want to welcome everybody to this occasion. Professor Mosto Onoha is actually my neighbor at Isuka. He is the president of the Nigeria Academy of Science. You know what it means to be president. Academy of Science is where you find the cream of scientists in this country. It's not too many people that are fellows. Talk less of being their president. That's why we invited him. He'll be talking to us on a matter as the Permanent Secretary has already said that is of concern to us. And what we usually do is to look at a topical issue, something that is burning, for our various convocation lectures. And I also just want us to sit back and enjoy. And as you live here, may God take you safely to your various destinations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Just before we have the citation, the representative of the NUC has a brief remark for the audience. You're invited, sir.
MC. Oh, there. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Education, Architect Sonny Echano, Directors of the Ministry of Education, Federal Ministry of Education here present, Vice Chancellors, the host Vice Chancellor, distinguished academics, please permit me to stand on existing protocol. Having been conscripted at short notice to make some remarks. The Executive Secretary of the NUC, Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid, your friend, your strategic partner in the orderly development of university education in Nigeria, would have loved to be here personally. And in the circumstance, he has asked me to come and represent the Commission. As we speak, the Permanent Secretary approved for him to proceed to Bayero University, Kano, to, in one breath, give the convocation lecture and in another breath to represent Mr. Visitor as a permanent secretary will do the same here tomorrow. But he has asked me to convey the warm felicitations of the entire management, the staff, and as we speak, when we speak as NUC, we speak on behalf of the 174 universities. So we bring the warm felicitations of the entire Nigerian university system on this important tradition. There is no university system without traditions like the convocation lecture, convocation ceremonies, and convocation lectures, etc., etc. He asked me to say that he's here with you in spirit, and that the National Universities Commission is ever ready as a strategic partner to partner with you and other universities on any initiative that will, elevate the frontier of knowledge, because this function is an academic function, and the ES said I should give his warm regards and best wishes for a very successful outing today. And I say good afternoon to you again, and thank you for conscripting me to say something. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, sir. We're moving swiftly with the program. At this time, we're going to invite the university orator, Professor McPherson Azuike, who will give the citation for our guest lecturer today in the person of Professor Kalu M. Onuoha.
Citation on Professor Kalu Mostu Onuoha, FAS, President, Nigerian Academy of Science, and Emeritus Professor of Geology, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, by the University Orator, Professor McPherson Kema Azuike, Department of English, University of Abuja. When people talk about standing on protocol, I attended an event here last week, the induction of medical doctors. And the chairman on that occasion said he wouldn't want to say that he was standing on existing protocol, that he was going to break legs. And I said, what's wrong with this man? 40-something doctors here, brand new doctors, surgeons from all over the country present, and you're afraid of breaking legs. I think, I thought he should have gone ahead to break even ribs. Okay. The chairman of today's occasion, Architect Sunday Echono, the permanent secretary, Federal Ministry of Education, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Michael U. Adiku, the Deputy Vice Chancellor's Academic and Administration, represented here by Professor C.B. Alawa, the librarian, Mrs. Echezona, Dr. Mrs. Echezona, distinguished senators, staff and students of the University of Abuja, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is my singular privilege to say a few words about this intellectual colossus who has been chosen to deliver the 2019 pre-convocation lecture at the 23rd convocation of the University of Abuja. One remarkable thing this university has never missed in recent times is the selection of some of the best brains in sundry areas of scholarship as pre-convocation lecturers. Here is another big fish in our net. We thank the Vice Chancellor and his management team for their perceptive selection and judgmental wisdom in identifying and securing the services of this noble Emeritus Professor of Geology. I assure you that when I unleash him on you from the constraints of protocol niceties, we shall all marvel at the fecundity of his scholarship, the timeliness and relevance of his lecture topic, seen in the intellectual reverberations of the research encapsulated in this lecture. I say this with confidence because I have in the line of duty had the good fortune of a sneak preview. In his area of scholarship, pure and applied geophysics, Professor Carlo has quintessential qualification and easily the cynosure of colleagues and academic competitors wherever and whenever they are. He's a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Science, whose presidency he clinched in January 2017. The positions he has held in the university system are legion, and predictably he joined the enviable ranks of a professor emeritus of the University of Nigeria in December 2017. To his credit are over 120 articles in peer-reviewed journals, co-editor of 4 books, and editor of another 2. He's a major player in oil and gas, where he provides the much coveted link between classroom and practical dispensation. Vice Chancellor, sir, with the above teaser, I invite this august assembly to read the profile of this bundle of intellect, one of the best in his field in Nigeria and the world, as provided on pages 24 and 25 of his lecture. Thank you for listening.
The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Education, and Chairman of today's occasion, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja, and other Vice Chancellors that are here. I'd like to particularly recognize the Vice Chancellor of Alex Ekwueme Federal University because, yes, I'm an emeritus professor, but I am a visiting professor at the Alex Ekwueme Federal University. So, and I'm particularly delighted that he's here. I recognize all other dignitaries, other vice chancellors and their representatives, the representative of the NUC. Let me just stand on existing protocols. I'd like to get on so that we'll save time, and some housekeeping. The people at the head table, when we got here first, I asked how will they see the screen. I asked that question. Permanent Secretary Search, as chairman, I think you should turn around. I wonder whether that's a slide view because that looks small to me. Oh, it cannot be bigger than that. All right, no problem. I think then it behoves on all of us to position ourselves where we can see the screen. You have the lecture. I'm not going to read it. At least I don't intend to do so. Okay, I'm told that this is being streamed live, and it's good to know that. So I'm not going to read what you have in your hand. What you have in your hand is what you can take home and read and digest. But I'm going to walk through what you have in your hand using the PowerPoint slides. I'm going to say a few things, introductory remarks, which I'm already doing. After that, I'll say a few words about the Nigerian Academy of Science. Why do I want to do that? I want to do that because in this hall, apart from myself and the Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja, I don't think there's any other fellow of the academy here, and there may well be. He hasn't. Okay. Now I'll see you, sir. Yeah, I'm glad about that. But the point I want to make is right here at the University of Abuja and in other universities and other people who are here, I know there are people who should be fellows of the academy. And they are not. Maybe they have not expressed interest or what. And it's important, especially if you can be, to become. That's why, and the academy is a very important organization. I suspect I was invited because I'm president. So I have to, just a few minutes I'll talk about that. Then I'll get on to the main business, which is to, what is it that happened at Abuja in the form of earth tremor? Have we been having such? Is there any history to such things? And then finally, what do we do? And that will actually conclude the lecture. So let me start by saying a few things about the Nigerian Academy of Science. Well, as the Vice Chancellor said in his opening remarks, The Academy of Science is a body of foremost Nigerian scientists, recognized nationally, recognized internationally as the highest scientific honor society in Nigeria. We represent all the other societies, including those who don't know, whether you are pharmaceutical or engineering or whatever, and outside the country. The Academy is composed of members who are called fellows. These are people who each individually has distinguished himself or herself as an expert. Each of them is recognized nationally and internationally in his field of endeavor. And whether it's in science, whether it's in engineering, whether it's in medicine. And so the Academy itself is modeled. We didn't just drop out of the sky. It's modeled after the Royal Society, which is one of the oldest. There's always a contest between which academy is the oldest. I listen to them outside, the Royal Society and the German Academy of Science, which all of them started in the 17th century, that's 16 something. Here in Africa, although the academy started only in 1977, but we are one of the oldest. The only academy that I know that is older than us around this way is Ghana. Because Kwame Nkrumah, as president of Ghana, recognized that science and technology was going to lift Ghana at that time and was going to lift Africa. He said that in many of his speeches. That's for those of you who know about the Kwame Nkrumah Awards and so on for excellence. Part of it is the origin if you study his speeches. And he was the one who took a bill to charter the Academy of Science in Ghana. It was a government bill that brought it, there must be, and then finance the people. That's how they started. Since its inception, on our register we have about 248 fellows. And we also have a category of fellows we call foreign fellows. There are only two. Ahmed Zawel, Egyptian-born but Nobel Prize winning chemist who died about 3 years ago, and Bruce Alberts are the two. But of the 248, some of them are no more living today. So actually there are about 170 something alive today, many very old. The vision of the Academy of Science is simply an improved quality of life for the Nigerian society. How? Through the promotion and application of science and technology. How do we do this? How do we accomplish our mission? We do this is to strengthen the nation's ability to deliver the fruits of science to society by the acquisition, by the growth, by the dissemination of scientific knowledge. We do that in a variety of ways. We provide advice when government wants on any matter, and we've done that many times. Government or private individuals or companies, if you have a challenge, then we do that. When, I might digress, but when the Russians were the first person to put a man in orbit, Yuri Gagarin, once they did that, the space race was on, and America was seriously challenged. And President John Kennedy had to summon the president of the Academy of Science of the US. He said, these guys have gone, now I want a man on the moon. Is it possible? I said, okay, President will come back and tell you. They had their acts together. That's how the Apollo series started. And they were able to put a man on the moon after some years. So government throws problems, we solve it. We also bring to the attention of government any matter of scientific interest that we think. And we do that, we organize seminars, we do very many other things. How do you become a fellow? Since I've talked about professors and qualified people in the University of Abuja and elsewhere, well, first of all, you must know that only a few can be admitted in any particular year. In fact, 10 every year. And you have to find these 10. They have to meet so much criteria. But essentially, it's a peer review process by your own people who know your work, people who are in your own field. I can't assess an engineer or a pharmacist, I'm not. And so on. And then it goes on around and around, rigorously through their sectional committees. Eventually, there's a short listing. Eventually, people can be now inducted.
The Pro-Chancellor, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
arrived.
Yeah.
May what?
The Pro-Chancellor is here, so we have to break.
Sorry for the interruption. The Pro-Chancellor of the University of Abuja, Lajime Kudi, has just arrived and is settling down. This lecture is is streaming live, and the link is www.youtube.com/Uniabuja TV. Pro-Chancellor, sir, you are welcome. We are grateful for your presence. The registrar has also arrived. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Admin, Sani Adam, has also arrived. The Pro-Chancellor didn't come alone, came with other high-powered individuals. We have carefully not told you so many things about Mrs. Salamatu, because tomorrow is her day, and that's when we are going to unveil her. Okay. So let me hand over back to the lecturer.
Sorry. Oh, no problem. Pro-Chancellor, sir, you haven't missed too much, because I haven't gone into the body of the lecture. I'm just about to get there. So about membership, we open on the 1st of June every year, and applications or nominations can be received. You don't apply. You are nominated by someone who knows you, who is familiar with your work in your own area, and then the process starts. Well, just to give you an idea of some of the things we've been doing, the Academy has done a lot of work, health systems in Nigeria, workshops, summaries, things that help the government. The health system particularly, this report helped change how blood is handled in hospital. Government brought out a new law, because our job is to provide evidence-based scientific advice based on which government can bring policies and make legislation. So there are very many publications, science, technology, and innovation in Nigeria. Accreditation report, Federal Ministry of Science and Technology. At that time, some years back, we had to review why are there so many agencies? Are we getting value for money and all that? Effective primary health care, there are lots of them. Quarterly lecture series. One on the left, Baton Naji, many years back, where he articulated many of the things we eventually followed on power sector. This is a 2000 lecture by my very self, widely circulated then in the world, about technology and oil and gas, and so on. So these publications are freely available. Many of them you can see on our website, www.nas.org. Okay, now Abuja. We have every reason to be worried about Abuja. If anything is making life uncomfortable in Abuja. Abuja is a very unique and important city. Everybody will agree with that. Otherwise, how could the population of a city, everything that was planned for this city has been outstripped in the last 25 years. Every growth projection that was made, nothing has worked in the way it was planned. It's not just that people love to come to Abuja and carry on business. It's the center of government. It's the center of administration for the country. It's headquarters of very many foreign organizations today, and Abuja is gradually developing into a major center of commerce and industry, and it has a great potential for becoming a transport hub, especially for West Africa. And because of all these and many more reasons I can give you, which are not necessary, you know yourself, it's important that people be sure that their property is safe, that they are safe in Abuja, and most importantly, that their investments are safe. And that our critical facilities, which we are building around, are also safe. So when there is panic, as there was between September 5 and September 7, 2018, when a series of tremors were widely felt in some parts of the Federal Capital Territory, it's important we continue to talk about it so that we do the right things. And I suspect the management of the University of Abuja, that's why they asked me to speak about this, because part of contributing to public good and public awareness of issues that must be trashed out. Now, immediately all sorts of theories were propounded. Haphazard land use practices, uncontrolled, heavy uncontrolled groundwater. In fact, one of the first reports said that it was because people were drilling too many boreholes and pumping water. When I heard that on TV, I laughed in my house, and I was a little bit sad because so many foreigners live around here, operate here, embassies and so on. What would they think about us when they hear some of the things we're saying? But government quickly put in another panel of people. And then, is it mining? Is it quarrying? Is it blasting? Is it water? What is it? We need to know. So, it is important that we address environmental concerns. And part of what we are going to say, I will try to explain what I know, what I think, and the way I think we should go. But the most important thing, one of the things I would like to emphasize is that earthquakes are natural phenomena. They occur. Maybe a little word about the title. When you read the title of today's lecture, it says, Terra non firma. And you begin to wonder, what does that mean? Well, you have to read the details, but it simply means, what I'm trying to say, when you sit down on the chair, you are sitting now on the desk. Sitting down is one of the most relaxed conditions, or even lying down on a bed, which is a final. And suddenly, I don't know anybody here in this hall who has ever experienced an earthquake. I have, outside this country, and it's a terrifying thing. You are lying down on a bed and you are thrown off the bed as if somebody pushed you and nobody did. So, you see, we usually regard the earth as solid earth, firm earth. That's what we talk about, solid earth. And firm, you sit and you sit. But suddenly, when the earth begins to behave as if it's normal, then the terra firma, solid earth, has now become terra non firma. Just using Latin words, playing around with words. So, now you can hear news everywhere. And every day we hear somewhere earthquake with globalization. If you have a TV, if you have internet, the news is everywhere about the things that are happening. And the question that most people would like to answer is, these kind of things we hear, I'll show you in a minute 1 or 2 pictures of somewhere. Can they happen here? And if they do, what do we do? So, the earth really can shake. And trying to explain this, I try to quote Shakespeare. I don't know how many of you read Henry IV in those days. But even if you didn't, what is interesting in the quotation of Shakespeare is that people have been trying to find excuses. Even in Shakespeare himself, writing way back in Henry IV, there was this conversation between 2 of the key characters. One was called Glendower and one was Hotspur. And then Glendower was boasting. He said, you see, the frame and huge foundation of the earth shake like a coward. I said the earth did shake when I was born. See, I'm not an ordinary person. When I was born, you have to read it to know what they're really boasting about to each other. But that's of no interest to me. What's of interest is that he said the heavens were all on fire and the earth did tremble. That's where he was born. No? And then Hotspur just responded and said, well, you know, these things do happen. So diseased nature oftentimes break forth. Is with a kind of colic pinched and vexed by the imprisoning of unruly wind within her womb, which for enlargement striving shakes the old belt and earth and topples down steeples and moss-grown towers. At your birth, our grand dam earth, having this distemperature in passion shook. It's like superstition. You know, that was his own explanation on how these things happen. And even if you read even the old Greek writings, Herodotus himself said it is Poseidon. It's like people saying, our God, they shake him. So there are very many reasons for earthquakes. Most explanations are wrong. Why do they happen? Well, they are just natural phenomena. I can tell you how they happen. Very simple language. What is an earthquake? First of all, I'd like to explain there is no difference between tremor and earthquake. They are the same thing. Whether you call it earthquake or whether you call it tremor, The thing is that the ground vibrates and you feel it if it's big enough for you to feel. And well, the thing usually happens in the ground. This, and then waves travel out from here. This is the focus or origin where the quake, it actually occurs in the ground. It can be close to the surface, it can be very deep down. And the place vertically above where it happened inside the ground is what we call epicenter. That is where the maximum damage is usually done. And that's because the waves travel the shortest distance from there up. Every other place, here you are at an angle and the dissipation of energy. So there's a build-up of and release of strain. That's what causes earthquake. Some of them can be very damaging. And it is the waves, the shaking that moves, that's what you feel. And that's, many earthquakes happen every day, many. Some of them most of them are dictated only by instruments. People don't feel it, they get about their business. In a place like San Francisco in California, which is an earthquake zone, people are, weekly, you just feel, oh, this nonsense again. And people carry on their businesses. And we can classify earthquakes in many ways. Some are called tectonic, some are a result of volcanic action, and some are man-made. Part of the problem we wanted to know whether, is it what we are doing wrong in Abuja, whether we are doing wrong or we are doing right, but is it something we did that is causing it? That's one of the things we'd like to know. There are some zones of the world known for earthquakes, and all this area. If you look at South America, the western margin goes on to the western margin of North America, China, the eastern margin of Asia. This is Second Pacific region. That's a great earthquake belt. Most of the biggest. Then across the Himalayas and Alpine mountains in Europe. These are the large areas where there are earthquakes. And just to tell you what can happen, one of the most destructive earthquakes occurred in 2010, one of the most devastating in this decade. The decade has Haiti on the 12th of January. You can see what some of this did. Earthquakes can shatter our perspective. Look at picture seen taken from AFP. Poorly constructed building. Port-au-Prince is the capital of Haiti. This was a major hotel, completely reduced to rubble, and there were people in the hotel. So that's the kind of thing that can happen. That's why we get worried, because people can die. In 2018, just last year, the strongest earthquake felt had a magnitude of 8.2. It was close to Fiji. Mercifully, God made sure it happened where very few people live. But the one that created the greatest disaster last year was in Indonesia. In one earthquake alone, 2018, about 2,256 people died. It wasn't even as big as the magnitude of 8.2. And last year alone, in 2018, close to 3,200 people died of earthquakes, in earthquake-related. So there is a threat. There's something that we need to concern ourselves about. It is the shaking that brings about the problem. Well, let me now start about Nigeria. What do we know? Two historical events actually brought Nigerians home to talk about earthquakes. The first one was something that happened not in Nigeria but in West Africa. On the 22nd of December 1983, there was a major earthquake in Guinea, Northwest Guinea, magnitude 6.2. That earthquake killed very many people, and in the aftermath of that, people were worried. Just like Nigeria, Guinea is not in an earthquake zone. How did this happen? And like joke, as the young people will say, between on the July 28th, 1984, and August 2, 1984, around Ijebu-Ode axis, a series of tremors widely felt Ibadan right up to Ilorin. And that was what got people now talking. And these events triggered the setting up, the government set up. All sorts of people went to talk on TV as they tried to do last year in Abuja. You see, we never learn. We always do the same things again. The government put together what they called a National Technical Committee on Earthquake Phenomena, NTCEP, National Technical Committee on Earthquake Phenomena. This was set up by the federal government of Nigeria in 1984. How many years now? In the wake of the earthquakes felt in southwestern Nigeria. That brought together people from the relevant ministries, the army, the navy, and people in the universities that they thought had knowledge. To the glory of God, I'm still alive. I was a member of that pioneer, an active one of that committee. So the National Technical Committee on Earthquake Phenomena, NTC, was an advisory committee of experts set up by the government of Nigeria to advise it on. Please note the board. I put a quote there. I reproduce it purposely, taken from the note that the government wrote. He said to advise government on how to cope with the earthquake menace that had suddenly found its way into West Africa. That had suddenly found its way. So, you know, this might be the permanent secretary, sir. You know, when people write in government, the bureaucracy, the language of the person writing. But it was very interesting for me. What do we do now? This thing has suddenly found its way, like somebody sneaking in. Anyway, so, but the government gave very cogent mandates. The first was examine all factors that can lead to the occurrence of earthquakes in Nigeria. Assess the reality. This is not a joke, or is it real? Establish earthquake-resistant design guidelines for the construction of critical facilities so that when we build, they won't fall. Number 3, draw up guidelines for the prompt response for the management of the effects of any earthquake that may occur in Nigeria. I make bold to tell you that in 3 was the origin of NEMA. There was no NEMA then. There was a small group of people, even the army itself and the Air Force, who themselves are versed in what they call search and rescue operations, didn't have any coordinated thing outside. That's it. Maybe Air Force had, maybe Navy had, but related, no. So NEMA originated from there. It was a subcommittee of our committee. I'm glad about that. There were all sorts of things. Let's compile data. Let's do this and that. They gave us these 6. And then to organize workshops, and many of them we did. So my assessment, after a time, the government dissolved it. After about 8 years. The mandates given by government needed time. It's not something you do just like that. Funding was grossly inadequate. And at that time, there wasn't even a single seismological station. APU Zaria was the only university that had something they used for teaching, which was able to record that 1984 tremor in Southwest. In fact, when we started studying, we had to get the records, the scientific records from Lab 2, an observatory in Ghana, to do a report on that. So, some of the problems we still have today, they are still there. The problem of funding is still there. Because even when government said, let us set up, agreed that we will set up stations, there was no money for that. We didn't have trained personnel. I remember I was in charge of sourcing for the instrumentation, and then there's this disjoint between academia and government, and then specification. It took long. But today, things have changed. Our committee, apart from giving birth to NEMA, also gave birth to an institute today that monitors earthquakes, CGG, Center for Geodesy and Geodynamics. It's in Toro, in Bauchi State. It's now managed by NASTRA, National Space Research and Development Agency. So we've come a long way. We've made some good progress. And the geological survey has, you may not see this very well, trying to show you the focus of the Mpape quake. Now, in order to understand what happened, I tried, when you go home and read the work, to show you there are people who have been thinking about it. What you see here is a dug into the past, and a 1923 publication by a German scientist who had been collecting data. How do we know what happened in Nigeria in those days? We do know. If you read the London Times, colonial records, regency reports, you know, all those DOs, district officers, whether they were in Kaltungo or they were in Sokoto or they were in Bende in the south, they were all keeping records and reporting back. If you go to London, those who are doing history, you can dig. That's where you can read very many things. They wrote reports of what they saw, what was strange, what was interesting, and so on. And there are a lot of ways we can record. This map shows you, it says, average annual frequency of earthquakes in Western Africa. And you can see a zone. This is actually the Cameroon volcanic line because something happens in Cameroon always. And then places where up to so many shocks per year. So you see some activity. But after the Guinean earthquake, serious studies started. This is from Imperial College London, well-funded project that tried to show where they think this is Guinea area. But you see Nigeria again, almost empty, saying that nothing happens here. This is a lie. It's because we didn't have our own data, and we don't have. Now we have. This is a 2018 map from CGG in Toro, and you can see even in Nigeria, we do have events. So, instruments, what is the answer there? The answer is, to one question, can this thing, can we have earthquakes in Nigeria? The first answer is yes. They can. Not just at Mpape, can be any time. I'll tell you what I feel, whether we can have big one. I said no. So if that allays your fear. So now let's talk about Abuja particularly, because that's what people are interested in. Yes, between September 5 and 7, in fact, a series of mild, they were mild, but they were clearly perceptible. That's the important thing. You know, when you are driving a car and something shakes you, in fact, when you are even lying and your lamp starts swinging and no breeze is blowing, then you know there's something. So they were widely felt. But those things felt around Mpape, Gwarempa, some parts of Wuse too, especially people who were quiet, who felt it. They were only precursors. The main one then happened on the 7th, which was the one at Mpape, and large parts of my Tema, people felt it. But there was no visible sign of damage. Nothing was damaged. Not to talk of anybody being injured or dying. That was a good thing. And the instruments, we've studied them. CGG studied them. Where there's a seismological laboratory in OAU, Ile-Ife, they also, all of them produced the parameters. It was mild. Magnitude was just 3. The big ones that caused trouble are from 5 up. Although, let me explain that how much damage an earthquake does is not necessarily dependent on just the magnitude is important because that reflects the force, the energy released. But what type of buildings, what type of structures? In USA, like in California, I mentioned California because the earthquakes happened there. 6.2, 6.5, and the flyovers and bridges in San Francisco are all standing. But in Oran, part of Algeria, a 5.2 magnitude earthquake a couple of years back killed over 5,000 people. Why was that? Number one, that earthquake struck in a rural area. It happened in the night when everybody had come and they were all in their houses. They lived mainly in the adobe structures, poorly constructed, and it fell on them. If it had even happened in the morning during the day, when the people are out in the field, because when an earthquake occurs, the safest place to be is in the open air. Nothing can happen to you, unless it's so catastrophic that the ground splits and you fall inside it, which is rare. But it's really falling structures that does all the damage. So if you're in the open air, you'll be safe. So what we had was mild. What did our government do? I'm talking about the federal government now, just a couple of months back. They set up a committee again. That's interesting. And they gave, this time, a cabinet committee of many ministers, FCT minister, water resources minister, because they were already fingering water, and then works minister, and so on. and of course science and tech, and geological survey, that's mining. And then those people quickly met and set up a technical subcommittee where they called some of us again together. I served in that committee. And so on. So we had a lot of problems, similar to 1984. Between 1984 and 2018, how many years? 34 years. You can see in some areas we have moved very far in this country. Some areas where we seem to be back to basics, as if we didn't even know or do anything earlier. We still had inadequate database, even though we have sensors like CGG in Toro has sensors. They have at Kaduna, they have at Ife, they have at Nsoka, they have in Abakaliki. We installed them years ago, but they are not linked. We can't monitor in real time. So, are we safe here in Nigeria? My answer is yes. Relatively safe. But being relatively safe does not rule out the occurrence of such events. So the records show that these things have been happening. But the truth is that many of the things people say they feel are from outside, not very close by. So we need to know, we can distinguish between those happening in Cameroon. Cameroon has volcano. Each time the volcano erupts, it erupts periodically. There are earthquakes. If you have sensors, you think it's in Nigeria, but it's not. So, what of man-made are the things we do? Can they cause earthquakes? The answer is yes. Some of the big quakes, if you impound dams, large dams, when you are filling reservoirs, underground detonation, nuclear explosions, and so on, we're not involved in that. So, pumping of fluids deep into the earth through wells, yes. I've studied that personally. I've been involved. I worked for Shell for some time, and there was a time they were accused of causing problems in some communities in present-day Bios. I was there live. And I'll just summarize that fluid injection can cause tremors. But again, the type of petroleum reservoirs we have, no danger. Because the reasons are there. So the good news is that I'm convinced from my own studies that the risk of fluid injection is very small. It's not there. So it's not oil and gas. It can, but our own setting, tectonic setting and so won't. So that is the good news. But again, we've suggested things that companies can do, especially if they start. You see, there's what they call, in Nigeria, we're doing what we call primary recovery. They just drill, the thing comes out. When you get to a stage where you have to pump to extract, and we're not there yet. And even if you have to do so, there are things you can do. Could the Abuja tremors be linked with groundwater? Well, I have a lot of information in the booklet. You can read it. You see the Lower Usuma Dam, which it's been upgraded with with more water from Gurura scheme, but still it cannot satisfy Abuja. And so people are drilling boreholes. Borehole drilling is the biggest business. And the Asians are dominating, Indians and Koreans. In fact, many of our people in that business are falling out because they can't cope with the type of rigs those guys are bringing in. And lots and lots and lots of boreholes have been drilled in Abuja, over 10,000. And they are getting deeper and deeper because some up to 100, before just 30 or 40 meters. In some places now 200, but I'm telling you that that is not the problem. Because even the earthquake that happened at Mpape was 15 kilometers below the surface. So my answer, water abstraction, no. It's not water, not those drilling. In fact, what I think we need to worry about the borehole and the uncontrolled drilling in Abuja is from environmental point of view. You see, the rate of drilling and abstraction has many other environmental hazards, pollution and aquifer pollution, depletion. In fact, many of the boreholes are already not yielding again. So they go again and call another person to come and drill. So there has to be some kind of control. But it is not that. That has its own problem, but not the earthquake. Now, very many reasons, some of them technical and scientific, are given about the mechanical properties of the type of soil we have below Abuja and their strength. So water abstraction should not therefore be linked to the recent tremors in Pape, because even the thing occurred 15 kilometers below. There's no borehole in Abuja within the FCT that's deeper than 280 meters. So what we are talking about, worry about pollution, worry about sanitary conditions, and worry about interference between wells and so on, and dwindling production from your wells, which government can control, by the way. So, in my opinion, it is the aquifer regime that stands the risk of being exposed to pollution and depletion in the FCT. That's what I think. And the evidence is already there. Studies are already there. So, and they are trying to drill deeper and deeper. What should we be doing? Well, let's be warning people to be aware, but science. Let's put instruments. Let's know what we're doing. Let's plan for tomorrow. Let NEMA have a pre-disaster contingency planning unit, so that anything they can, even in Pape, they were there quite all right. Thankfully, they didn't have anything to do. So let's begin to gather baseline data. If we had continued from 1984, we would have been very far ahead now. And we should continue to map the faults. We know where these things occur. For example, we now know that there's a fault line from Kaduna through Mpape through FCT. If I start discussing the incidences in Kaduna South, and up to Koi and some other parts of Southwest, we know there's a fracture that goes around there. So those are the things we need to be studying, and we are doing them. But we need to do that more, so that if we map these fault lines, we'll begin to know with time and with more data which ones are likely to misbehave. This is a linear, I'm not sure, I can't see the lines there now, but it's supposed to be a lineament map from an ongoing PhD student of PhD work in my department. The lines, I can't see them on this, but the lines are there, hopefully your sheet, showing you even there are fault lines across Abuja. And these are the major faults that cross the country, and how they train further in is what we are still working on. And you can't see this very well, but some work I did close to 20 years ago, then studying for the former government initiative, just showing that there are all disruptions in the margin. And this faults is important, we map them. It's very important. So let me begin to summarize. In a few minutes, I will be done. Now, our region, Nigeria, generally we belong to the part of the world where earthquakes are not expected. And that is true. Because earthquakes are expected in active areas. The active areas are where plate boundaries, and we are very far. But what we found out is that even inside this place you say that is seismic, that's not seismic, there are old suture zones. And that's what we need to monitor. So as we gather more, we now know from historical records and other records that earthquakes have been occurring. We expect minor tremors. Expect minor tremors. There should be things that we should carry on with our lives in. Not anything like you feel in Europe or even in Morocco or Algeria. Those people are at what we call plate boundaries. They are in areas of intense activity. We are not. But because no place is completely immune, therefore, we are fortunate, just as we are, that we don't have hurricanes, we don't have typhoons, all those things that, if they were with our level of development, so God has been very kind to us. Even in earthquakes, we are not in an earthquake area. But that's just speaking generally. However, even, there are always exceptions. And so we expect minor tremors. What we need to do is to continue to map, to collect data, so that even the areas we will begin to know with time, the ones that are likely to have attention. Most importantly, we must implement our building codes. We must know what type of ground accelerations we expect, so that civil engineering people can tell us exactly how we can build. We must adopt and enforce environmental regulations with correct building codes and land use policies. So we need more data. But for the present, for example, one of the recommendations we made to government last year was that there should be a moratorium on quarrying. There's so much blasting and quarrying, blasting and quarrying. In fact, blasting and quarrying should continue only where they are building a highway. We need the roads. If some contractors working for government need to blast, let them blast. But those are small ones. But these people making money, then they can, in fact, they should renew their license only if they agree to deploy some instruments that will gather data for us. These instruments are cheap. They're not expensive. And then if the mining ministry that gives them the licenses should do that when they, and then with time, it will allow us to gather data. So for now, we can't even assess the cumulative effect of all the blasting that has been going on. So the moratorium placed by government on mining and quarrying in FCT should stand for now, except where they are building road. That's my personal opinion. We know some faults, like one running Kaduna to Nasarawa down to Abuja, it passes close to Mbappe. We need to know what's happening there. It's only instrumentation that can tell us. So, quarrying companies should be encouraged to provide and install monitoring sensors. Yes, I've said that. I'd like to thank you for listening. I'd like to, in a minute, just tell you what to take away. First of all, Nigeria is relatively free of earthquakes, and we think it will remain like that because it's nature that made it. Activities, the man-made activities can, but again, that's what we need to monitor that. Drilling and pumping water, not here, but down south, where they are doing petroleum, can and have triggered in some climes. We've studied our own. We don't think there's a problem, but we need to monitor. So the solution to all that, our government must be prepared to make more investment in science and technology. And this investment, because they pay off in the long run. CGG, the establishment based in Toro, they should have more resources. They only have 4 stations. They have in Kaduna, they have in OAU Leife, they have at Nsoka, because I was there then for years and helping in that. So there's network, one in Abak. We need a network. We need a network in the oil producing areas. And we need a network spreading from southwest through Kaduna, where a few years back, some of you may remember. And there are other places you read where there have been reports. Nobody has died from earthquake, nobody will, but our structures need to be safe. We need to monitor what happens around Abuja, not because of earthquake. We need to know who is drilling what and when. There must be some control. It must be better organized way of supplying water to a community for effective growth, even if only for health purposes. So I'd like to thank you for listening to me. I'd like to thank the University of Abuja it's a privilege to be invited to come and speak. I'm not sure I've answered all the questions, but I believe when you read the 20 or 26 page and the references, those who are interested can learn a lot more. I'd like to thank you for listening. Chairman, sir, thank you.
So there's water here. Ladies and gentlemen, another big round of applause. Thank you, sir. Very enlightening, very educative. I think a lot of us are relieved because I was very concerned about the borehole digging that's been going on, and I thought that was going to continue to increase the incidence of earthquake in Abuja. But it's good to know that we're relatively safe. Thank you, sir. Very fantastic lecture. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, we have the presentation of plaque to our guest lecturer for the day, and this will be handled by the chairman of the occasion, Architect Sunday Echonu, who is the permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education. Sir.
Exactly. On behalf of University of Abuja, the Vice Chancellor, the academic and non-academic staff of the university, and most importantly, the organizers of this convocation lecture, I want to specially, with honor and pride, present this plaque to our distinguished lecturer, Emeritus Professor Kalu Mosto Noaha. Again, for that eloquent delivery. We are proud of you. We are proud of the work you have done for us in this country, especially in your special field of geology, and especially your service to the committee on understanding the earthquake phenomena in our country. We thank you for taking time for this lecture, and it's my special honor to present this to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a remarkable privilege to have somebody of his stature, academic stature, to grace this occasion and to honor us by coming to present the pre-convocation lecture. At this time, we're almost coming to a close. We'll invite the chairman of the convocation committee, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor CBI Alawa, to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you. I didn't know I was ambushed to do this. But since they say it's vote of thanks, let me begin by thanking our guest lecturer, let me thank the permanent secretary, who is now, he accepted to come and chair this lecture a long time ago, and he has kept a date with us, and he's going to be here again tomorrow. So I will thank you. Convey our appreciation to your family too. Let me also thank the guest lecturer who came all the way from Nsukka. As he was giving his lecture, the VC hit me when he heard that the first instrument they had for monitoring earthquake was located somewhere. I won't call the place. So thank you for coming, sir.
Let me also thank the team that came from the Federal Ministry of Education. We have almost all the directors here. And that tells you where we are with the Federal Ministry of Education. And I know, I can see a vision that it will translate to more things from now on. Let me also thank the ES of NUC. He's looking around. Who is ably represented by our own Meyaki himself. Thank you, sir. I think the ES of TED Fund is also here. I think it's represented too. Please convey our message. We are looking for more from TED Fund. Of course, let me also now recognize my chief employer, the Pro-Chancellor, who is here. He has, in fact, I think he's now, he's no longer, in fact, he's an academic now. Because if you listen to him, you wonder why he did not join us much earlier. Flanked by him, you see my other employers, the members of council. Collectively, I want to thank you for finding time to be here. For our special invitees, there is somebody close to my heart here. He's a vice chancellor. If you see him, you will know he's a vice chancellor. But he's the vice chancellor of a federal university. The name is Double Barrel. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I know it's in Ebonyi State. Okay, Alex Ekwebe Federal University. I will just leave it at that. The representative of the Corps Marshal. You're welcome, sir. We thank you for coming. Let me also thank one of our honorary awardees. She's sitting here, a former minister, a former this and that. You're welcome, ma'am. I'm sure we will hear from you tomorrow. And she has come with, I don't know how to say this, but collectively, they are women of timber and caliber. By the time they talk to us tomorrow, we will know where we are going to. Let me also thank the principal officers of the university, the deans and directors, the professors, our lecturers, and of the men of the press, women of the press, and of course, the greatest Uniabuja students. Thank you. And let me not forget to thank other staff of the university here, members of the LOC. Thank you for making our job easy. Finally, all honor, all glory goes to God for keeping us alive here today. Thank you. I will leave the MC to do the other announcements.
Thank you very much. That's Professor Alawa, the chairman of the Convocation Planning Committee. At this time, we're actually at the end of the program. I want to just make a few announcements. There's going to be a cocktail at the library for members of Senate, our special guests. So kindly move to the library after this event. At this time, shall we all rise? We'll take the closing prayer and the national anthem. Let's rise to our feet. We'll ask Professor Mike Oko to come and say the closing prayer.
In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Father, Lord God, we thank you, we bless your name for this pre-convocation lecture. We pray in your mighty name that you guide each and every one of us as we leave this place. To you and to you and you alone be the glory. Thank you, Father, for everything. This is another.
By Wet T Network Connection 0805-210-9617 or 0703-930-9946.